Trigger warning. In this episode, we speak about anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are in a crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you are having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-8255. If you are located outside of the United States, call your local emergency line immediately. Now back to the podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to Grow As We Go.
Hi everyone, I'm Diana.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
Hey, I'm Angie.
Hello everyone and I'm Fatima, and today we have a special guest, Brittney.
Woo! Hi everyone, my name is Brittney. I currently attend UC Santa Barbara, although I've been at home for quite some time. Some things that I like to do on my free time, I would say, is spend my time outdoors. When I'm in Santa Barbara, I really like to go out for a run by the beach. Here back at home, I really just spent my time reading and going out on runs too, out in the neighborhood.
Wait, so B, what are you studying at Santa Barbara?
So it's part of the linguistics department. It's language, culture, and society.
Love
yeah,
it.
so I just kind of get a glimpse of everything, which is kind of nice, and how language plays a role in our identity, so it's pretty interesting.
Love that.
All right, Brittney, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you in today's episode.
Yes.
And since we already talked about some goals we have for this year, something that's very important for us to get to those goals or reach those goals, it's to take care of ourselves, self-care. So to you ladies, what does self-care mean to you?
I would say that self-care, to me, I usually put this into my routine when I feel like I need to re-energize, or if I'm stuck doing school and I find myself getting frustrated. I'm like, okay, I think this is some time where I need to step away and do some things that help me kind of have a stable state of mind, or find ways to school can be really stressful, so I think it's find ways that in a way, I know I'm exaggerating, but help you stay sane.
No,
for
sure.
Of course.
And I think there's a misconception too with self-care being a thing to do only when you feel shitty. I feel like it's so important to exactly how you said, to implement it in your everyday routine and make it some sort of habit, so that way you could prevent those shitty times as much as possible, so I think that's really cool that you do that, you have your little everyday thing.
I didn't really kind of know what self-care was until I came to college, and people kind of became more, people started talking about it more. I was a little bit self-care, I never really practiced that. Maybe I did practice it, but I just wasn't really labeling it as self-care. Now that I think about it, I feel like I for sure was doing self-care, but I just wasn't labeling it. So I feel like college helped me kind of create that label. This action that I'm doing is actually self-care, and it kind of just helps re-energize me as a person. And I think there's kind of a stigma self-care, you're so weak or stuff like that, but I think at the end of the day, I feel like self-care, like I said before, it just helps you re-energize yourself. And I think it's very important that everybody, maybe you are practicing self-care and you don't even know what it is because you just haven't taken that time to attach that label to that.
We didn't really know what that term was, and I was thinking I didn't really notice that until I was going through a really rough time in high school and moving out. It was finding ways to just kind of feel happy or feel at peace. And I think in high school I was kind of thinking oh, what did I do for self-care? And I feel it was different things for us, because self-care, I mean, it could be, for me, it doesn't have to be things that you do on your own. I think maybe for us it could have been hanging out together, that was our form of self-care. Or if we were in sports, I think we found joy in doing that. So after school or after dealing whatever our personal issues at home or whatever, I think that was kind of our little escape. So I think that was possibly our form of self-care, and we didn't really notice.
Yeah, I actually love that you said that, because that's something I was going to emphasize on, that I think self-care doesn't always have to be focused physically on yourself. I think it's also part of I think one of you guys said part of a routine For example, like doing your bed every morning, or cleaning up your room, or making sure you go on a walk every day, or something like that. Something that will make you feel good and satisfied with yourself or with your daily routine.
I think all of you guys pretty much hit the spot on like what I also believe is self-care is, and it's like what the definition says, it's caring for oneself. And I think like how you all said it's like a time for you to energize yourself. And I think having that concrete or little things that you do throughout the day can really make a change in your mindset throughout the day, because if you come over an obstacle and your headspace is not right, or you're not emotionally there, or you can't comprehend what's happening because you have so much going on in your head, I think self-care is that time where you're able to ground yourself and you're able to like reevaluate yourself and gain yourself back, if that makes sense. Because you know, like throughout the day you lose yourself, you think about all these things that you have to do or what's going on, and you lose sense of yourself in that way. And I think having that self-care really helps you basically ground oneself. And it's like how we said previously, it's a domino effect. Once you have your self-care good and you do things that make you feel good, like everything else that happens in your life will spiral down, and it won't affect you as much because of your self-care and how much you've been caring for yourself and taking that time to do that.
And I think that's so important. You really hit it on the nail too. And Brittney, what you said earlier, how back in high school you did something different, and then now you're doing something different, you're doing something else now. And I think that's so important to recognize that self-care changes as you also evolve and changes to a different person. And it also changes based on what you're struggling with. Like if you are struggling with anxiety, your self-care might look a little different than when you're struggling, when you're having depression symptoms, or when you're stressed. Like it changes and adapts to where you are currently in life. I think in our community, especially as Latinas growing up, I didn't even know what anxiety. I heard about stress. I didn't know what anxiety was until probably late into high school and into college for sure. And I'm sure that we all have experienced form of anxiety, but I think looking back now into my freshman year self in high school, I think I realized that I was experiencing anxiety and depression, but I didn't know that's what it was, because it wasn't really talked about. Like I never got in that talk from my parents. Mental health in Hispanic communities, that's like not even a thing. I feel like there's still this huge stigma behind like no estás bien, like
you're not depressed,
fine,
get happy, you know.
Exactly, like this whole this off and on switch, you know.
Yeah, we've all been products of having that type of environment where like, not that they don't believe in you, but it's just I feel like our parents or our family
they just
members
don't understand.
Yeah. Or maybe honestly though, I feel like they could have also felt like anxiety, stress, and depression. For sure. But I feel like they just never had like that need to label it or do something about it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's just like a whole like cycle of generational problems.
Exactly.
Going back to what you were saying, Angie, it's like it's I was talking to you the other day about this, how it's kind of scary how like you, like in high school you go through something and it can be depression or anxiety or panic attacks, and at the time you're like, what the is going on with me, and like you just kind of go like this to it, and then like later on you're like, whoa, that was actually depression, whoa, I was actually not okay, whoa, I was actually not, you know. And I think that's like, for me it was like a scary thing to realize, because like it's like you just feel alone at the time when it's happening, and it's like, how do you even, since you're not educated or nobody's talking about it, it's like, how do you get, and it's like that time where you make those choices to like try to maneuver yourself, because that's your only option.
I'm glad you guys really brought that up, because when it comes to psychological things in the Latin community, it's just, they're pretty much like, oh, they're in denial of it, you know? It's that, actually, I've experienced that not too long ago. I was kind of like on my lowest point ever. Like when I was in high school, and they would have those college students come in for the AVID seminars, and they would talk about their anxiety and depression, and I was like, I don't believe in that. I think it's just I just think it's just in their head. Or I would hear them talk about the depression, anxiety, and how some of them even end up in a hospital for that, and I was just like in denial of it, because that's just the way I grew up. I didn't think it would happen to me until it was around my second year or the beginning of my third year of college, where I gained like 20 pounds, and I wasn't caring about the way I was looking, and I was kind of depressed because of because I didn't know what I was going to do in college. I felt kind of lost, and I didn't really accept that about me until one day I was going out with my mom, and we were getting ready to go out, and I just didn't know what to wear. Like none of my clothes was fitting me anymore, so I just kind of put on like leggings and a t-shirt, and that's it. And then my mom in the car, she kind of, and I know my mom meant well in many ways, because my mom's like my best friend, and she cares about me and everything, but she just kind of gave me that reality check, like, you don't care about yourself anymore. I don't know what you're gonna do in college. You've gained so much weight and this and that. I broke down in tears. It was like just a huge mental breakdown I had, and that's when I vented out to my mom. I was like, honestly, Mom, I think I'm just depressed because I don't know where I want to be, what I want to do with my life. Like, my routine is just completely messed up. All I want to do is sleep after I come from home from school. And I think my mom, like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. And I could see in my mom's eyes that she was like, oh my God, my daughter's really going through like a very hard time, and she's actually depressed and going through anxiety and stuff. And so at that point, I think it was just that a reality check for my mom, as well as it was for me. I was just like, I'm just gonna stop feeling sorry for myself and do something to change this, because, and I'm not saying that seeking out for help is not gonna help, but I think it always starts with you and accepting yourself, because when it comes to depression, the only person that can get you out of that is yourself. And I know finding help, it's gonna give you that push and gonna help you, but it's just, at the end of the day, it's just within you. And that day, I pretty much changed my entire routine. I stopped sleeping, for sure, like taking naps throughout the day. That's something that I forced myself not to do, and it's something that's really helped me.
I feel like that's always the hard part, is just kind of like acknowledging it, like acknowledging that you have anxiety or you have stress or you have depression. I feel like that's always like the hardest part. I remember for me, like I'd always say like, oh, I've never had anxiety. Like, no, like I've never had like a panic attack or anything. But it wasn't until college started and I started to get like a whole bunch of anxiety, and I'll always remember like my first panic attack that I had. I was taking a chem final and I had studied the whole night, didn't get no sleep. I popped in an energy bar to go take my final. As I got the final, the first question, for some reason, I didn't know how to convert Kelvin to Celsius, which is like the most simplest thing to do ever. And I kind of like froze. Like, I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I started kind of like invalidating like my intelligence. I was like, I'm not smart. Like, I spent all my time. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't belong here. Like, just like kind of like putting all these like negative thoughts into your brain. And so then I started to like shake. I was literally shaking. I couldn't, like, my vision was like getting blurred out. I even was so close to handing in the final to my professor. Like, he was right there next to me. I was so close to just like turning it in to him and like not answering a whole question, like the whole final. And then I was like, you know what, like, you can't do this, Ashley. Like, you have to stay in here. Like, you're going to take this final, whether you like it or not, whether you think you're prepared or not, you're going to take this final. Like, it's going to come to you. So I was like, okay, like, let me go to the restroom. So I asked my professor to go to the restroom. I got up and I was literally tripping down the stairs. Like, I literally could not walk straight. Like, I was like I didn't, like, my body was just kind of like, it was just so weird. And I feel like so like giddy talking about it right now, because it just brings me back to like that moment. And so then I went to the restroom and I was just like kind of just like in there, like just taking deep breaths. And so then I went back in there, and I finished that exam and I turned it in. I passed the class. I was so happy about that. And I remember at the end of, like, as soon as I turned my final in, I just like broke down crying. I was like, wow, like, I just did that. And like, that's when I started to realize, like, you know what, I do have like problems. Like, I do suffer from like test taking anxiety, and I had suffered like anxiety in college, like about exams and stuff. And I was like, oh, like, I just kind of brushed it under the table. Like, everybody experiences this, and I didn't want to like single myself out, because like I know everybody is like always nervous before taking like midterms and finals. I spoke to my parents about it, and then they were like, you know what, like, what's all this pressure about them? They're like, we don't have any pressure on you. Like, we support you in your education, like, no matter what. Like, I don't understand why you're feeling so much pressure. And I was like, I don't know. Like, that made me question, like, why do I feel pressure? And so like my mom, she was able to like help me kind of seek out sources that are beneficial for me. So like I went to a doctor and I got diagnosed, and then I was able to like get like extended times on exams, only for some of them, because I still feel guilty. Although I know I shouldn't, but I still do. Like I just don't think, oh, why am I special? Why should I have like extra time, or why should I take the exam by myself in like another room, you know? So I haven't, like, if I'm being completely honest, like I have been diagnosed, but I haven't like done anything about it. Like I'm still doing the same exam as everybody else does and not having any other special things for accommodations for me. But I think it was just a start, kind of just to acknowledge like that I have test taking anxiety, and I have been able to like work with it and kind of study a certain way or do things a certain way that I know can like minimize how I take tests. And I started a lot to like listen to like music that helped me just like relax and kind of just unwind down, and just kind of say like you can only accept what you can't, like you can only control what you can, and what that else is, you can only control so much. So like, you know, just let everything go. And I feel like my test taking anxiety has gotten better. So I feel like just kind of recognizing it was like the first step for me, you know?
And sometimes that's like the biggest step that you need to take. That's your biggest leap. I think just a disclaimer, you know, for everyone, we're all just talking from our own experience, and we're all so whatever works for us might not work for somebody else. And I'm so happy that these conversations are being held now, and I think it's causing us to be more comfortable with talking about things that we all experience. Like, speaking about panic attacks, I think interesting to see how you guys all each like handle your own panic attacks, and I think that's really like, it's comforting to know that we're like, you know, we're not alone. And for me, how I handle my panic attacks, like I remember one time, it was probably one of my worst panic attacks. I woke up, had a shitty day, and I go to work and already feeling like, okay, like I don't feel like my best self, and I have to put on this like I would feel like it's like a jacket of weight to like manage the restaurant, and I don't feel like me. And I remember just having this immense amount of pressure and just going to the back and like completely breaking down. And exactly what you said, the quiver of the lips, the blurry vision, the uncontrollable breathing, the like your lips and your fingers going numb, like what usually in those moments, it's taken me a while to really understand what works for me in the moment to actually calm down and level back out and recharge exactly. And I know that it sounds so simple and so mundane, but breathing correctly in those moments helps so much. Like one thing that my therapist told me is she has me, which sounds so like common sense. You would think it's common sense, but simply putting your hand on your belly and making sure you feel your breaths go through your nose to your stomach, because sometimes when we're having panic attacks, they're going straight to our chest, so it makes us feel like we're not breathing right, and that makes us feel like we need to gasp for more air. But simply putting your hand so you actually feel it going to your belly, taking deep belly breaths, helps so much. And I think, and doing like 10 of those, and I know it sounds like 10 breaths, really, like what is that going to do when I'm having like a world of issues go through my head? But those simple little acts truly make the difference, or they allow you to come back down and like ground yourself back to like, where are you at this moment? So that's one of the things that helped me with like anxiety and panic attacks. It's deep belly breaths.
Like, for example, when I would go to walk to these exams, I would listen to, like, I have like this one song that has been like, I guess, my grounding song, and I just listen to it over and over and over again before I walk into like the exam location. And that has helped me just kind of like get in the zone and know that like you got this, and like you can only, like I said, like you can only control so much. So I feel like just like maybe choosing a song that is grounding for you.
What song? Do you mind sharing the song, or you want to keep it private?
It's a Christian song. It's called Peace Be Still.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the music part, because that's actually something I do a lot when I feel like I'm gonna get like anxiety or I feel like I need to get out. So something I do is I either go on a run or I go on a walk, and I put in my earbuds and listen to music. But I don't really listen to soothing music. I listen.
I mean, but that's fine. Everybody has their own.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of like cumbias, reggaeton, or like something that's gonna give me. Yeah,
She's like, now I'm gonna be a bad bitch today.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't know. I always want to dance all the time, so I listen to dancing music, and it not only makes me want to dance, but it also makes me just think about and put myself together and puzzle my thoughts and just calm down. And honestly, it's been helping ever since I've been doing that, because sometimes I'll be doing homework or something and I'm just like, no, like going on a 30-minute walk or an hour, whatever, of exercising is going to take up time from me doing my homework or studying. But honestly, once I started doing that, I literally thank myself for doing it, because it calms you down. You're more relaxed. And you're just like, okay, I'm going back to work. And I go back to work immediately. And
even if it's for 15 minutes, 10, 5.
Yeah.
3 minutes. Like, anything helps. It really does.
I think for dealing with anxiety, I think I would go back what you guys were talking about with like test anxiety. I think that's where I experienced it a lot. It was just kind of like I put this pressure on myself. Like Ashley was saying, like, oh, my parents, they were kind of telling me like, what is it that what's causing this? Like, we're not, we don't have these really, I mean, yeah, they have expectations, but they're not pressuring you to be like this perfect daughter, like you fail, like you try again. But I think for me, it was being a perfectionist. I think I would put a lot of pressure and like going into a test. I remember I also had a panic attack during one. It was the worst thing ever. I think was it Angie that said that it was like blurry vision, but for me, I would start sweating. Like, it was just me talking myself down that causes anxiety. Of like how Ashley was saying, like, this simple conversion, you just start doubting, and then you just become so anxious. I think what helped me a lot, I would step out those breathing techniques that Angie mentioned, those 10 simple breaths. I don't know, it just it helps a lot. I think it's just something you do to still the mind. And I think that's, what really drives us to experience this, like, crazy anxiety is, like, just all that negative self-talk. As, like, I know that's what causes my anxiety, is I'm always trying to put myself down, or I just, like, need to be perfect. As, like, I know I'm, like, a perfectionist, so that's what would always drive my anxiety. I think something else, I know definitely for stress, and, like, it's a different, like, you cope with it differently.
Exactly.
I think when I'm stressed out, like, leading up to an exam, it's so crazy how, like, things we deal with is just kind of like a pattern. It starts from when you're studying, you become stressed, and it's like, now that I'm thinking, I'm like, before this test, if I'm stressed, I think I just, go out on a run.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, just to get it out. I don't know, like, when you feel stressed, you just kind of feel like, your mind's very, like, clustered with all these thoughts, and, like, just trying to get something done leading up to a test that's, you're going to experience something else. It's like finding a way to calm yourself through the process. And I think for me, like, I think for, like, stress, it's like, I need to get out of here. Like, I need to go out into nature. And I feel like for stress, it's more like something that's more, I don't know, like, I just picture myself running. That's what I would do. Like, luckily, like, I lived by the beach, so, like, I would just, get out of my apartment and be like, see you guys later. Like, let me just go work this out on my own. I'm not gonna cry. I'm always, like, I feel like I'm really tough on myself. So I find things, like, I think self-care has been, like, super, super helpful. I don't know, I feel like you don't want to put out this image to everybody else because you want to be a role model as well. Like, I know with my roommates and stuff, like, dealing with this stuff, I'd always worry about them. Like, oh, how am I going to make them feel if I'm, like, stressing about studying for this exam?
Exactly.
Or, like, if I'm feeling anxious, like, I don't know, it's always, like, that's, having this role model image.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's how I kind of deal with it. For stress, I think I, go out on a run or even just on a walk, but I prefer something that's, like, wastes more of my energy, just kind of, like, blur out those thoughts, that have been stressing me out. And then when I'm anxious, I think it's like, my body needs that calm, that I need that peaceful state of mind. So I think that's when, like, breathing, meditating, that's stuff that I do. So that's, like, the difference between the two.
I think going back to the whole breathing, I think it's very very important for people, or for me, to understand what is it, science that goes behind it, because of course your mind and your body are connected, and you need to understand that they always have to be one. And when you're going through these motions, you're usually in your head, right? And you're not paying attention to what's going on with your body. And I think understanding the amount of influence and impact breathing really does influence it, because you're bringing your mind back to like, oh shit, I have a body. Oh shit, I'm like in a room, you know?
Yeah,
you're so like
Yeah.
like you're so in your head. But
It is, yeah.
going back to like the whole panic attacks, I'm sorry if we're dwelling on this topic for so long, but I'd like to just advocate, if you pray, then that's also a very good way to get out of panic attacks. Because I remember this one very specific, I've only had 2 panic attacks in my life, which I feel like I'm blessed, because I know that people really struggle with it, and I know that this topic is not light. I know this topic is very delicate to every individual. But going back to the panic attack, I remember I didn't know what was going on with my body. I was shaking. I just couldn't think, and I was just so scared. And I had like this ball in my chest, and I remember I was sweating too. And it's kind of, I don't understand, but it was when I was high, and it wasn't when I was sober. So when I'm high, I overthink a lot. Well, at least before, and at this specific time and it got me into a panic attack. And I remember I was like, I don't know what to do, and then I was breathing and through my diaphragm, as Angie was describing, which is your stomach. And I remember I was looking in the sky, and I was just praying to God, like, please help me, like I don't know what to do. And I remember like I was praying to him, and I just felt like this sensational peace over me, and I just knew he was with me. And when it was going on, I saw black birds. It was like crows right in front of me. And then right when I felt the peace, they disappeared, and I saw like these beautiful birds. And I just knew that he was with me. And for me, that praying really makes a difference in my anxiety or panic attacks, because I'm very a spiritual person and religious person in that aspect. And that really helps me calm my senses and my whole mentality overall.
I would say the same thing. I feel like you just knowing that somebody is there for you, and that like you have that kind of spirit guiding you and protecting you at all times, or just like acknowledging that.
Because you're only human, right?
Yeah.
And you can't take all this yourself. And of course, you need the higher gods or whatever you believe in the universe to help you. And it's okay to ask for that help, because that's where they're there for, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to-do lists are a huge thing. But sometimes also to-do lists, when I'm stressed out, seeing too many things on my to-do list overwhelms me.
You have to be strategic about creating your to-do list. You can't just write everything down. You need to know how to time block. But at the end of the day, this is how it works for us. Some people might see a to-do list and they're like, okay, bam, I gotta do this, and I'm gonna do this next. And then look at all that I've done before, and it's like more motivating you, you know? But I feel like for sure, like time blocking, like.
And that's something my therapist told me, because I would write down so much shit on my to-do list that realistically, there was not enough time realistically enough for me to eat, take a shower, and do all the things I need to do on my to-do list. There's no way. And she was like, Angie, you need to be, even if it takes some time, and I think it's like that expectation that you have for yourself. Like, oh, I expect myself to do A through Z, but sometimes A through C is okay and is perfect, and that's enough.
Yeah, and I feel that when you have a lot of things on your to-do list, you leave things halfway done. I at least that's how it is for me. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I have to do this next. Now I have to do this next. I'm gonna stop it here. But I rather just get over with certain things that I prioritize, and then finish the next some other day. Because just finishing things in one day, how you mentioned, Angie, it's just unrealistic to finish in just one day. Because, I mean, for one class, at least 2 hours. And then you still need time to, at least. And you still need time for yourself, you know? And I think it's just important to take time for yourself throughout the days, because you're going to overwhelm yourself and just bundle up your thoughts a lot. And it's just going to cause you to have anxiety and stress yourself out more, you know?
And kind of like what Brittney was saying is like, you kind of you expect the most out of yourself. Like you hold yourself at this top tier, and which is good. You know, people think highly of themselves, and like, that's good, because you're feeling, or how do you say, like, you just hold yourself up so high at a pedestal because you know your potential and you know your worth, which is amazing. But at the same time, you need to realize that, like, you're only human, you can only do so much. So I feel like just being realistic is like the biggest thing that you can do, and it takes time. Like, I'm still struggling with being realistic, you know. I don't know if y'all are, but like I still make to-do lists and I kind of over anticipate anything that I can do, and I'm like, I still have those days where I'm like, what was I thinking, like, you know?
Yeah, it's so crazy how you could like just see this with simply doing a to-do list. Like, you know, if I'm gonna go ahead and do that tonight, like I can see where like I become overwhelmed.
There's a fine line of where it becomes obsessive, where you start to freak out if you're half an hour off because you didn't block out time because for life happens, and allowing yourself to like stick to its schedule, but allow there to be flexibility.
I think what has helped me with time management and like my everyday duties, thinking of it or putting it as the 80-20 rule. Have you guys heard of it?
No.
It's this theory that if you focus on like the 3 main big important things in your day, you do that first, and then you do everything else. So like you use 20%, you do 20%, and then the 80% you do like less important, but basically you get out the importance first, and then you do prioritizing what's most important.
Like there is a huge stigma behind therapy, and there's like this like, I could do this on my own. Like if I go to therapy, I'm weak, or like I don't talk about my issues, or there's just many different things, and I feel most of it going around be tying to weakness, vulnerability, and stuff. And I think I love that you said that, like it helped you so much, and I think it could help so many people.
A lot of people are just like, I don't need to go to therapy, I'm not crazy or anything.
You don't
But I
need to be
just think
crazy.
it's more, yeah. I just think it's just a way to like develop your inner thoughts that you've been holding in, because I've never been to therapy, but I know some people that have been, like you guys, and some of my family have been through it, and it's okay to also not have someone that you like.
Finding your right therapist is it's a struggle, and it's hard. And that's a real thing. Sometimes when people will debunk therapy because they had a bad experience with the therapist, and your therapist really does make or break your experience, unfortunately. Like if you, Brittney, I'm like, you love your therapist. I love my therapist. Like I would invite her to my wedding, or like if that wasn't like weird, like I want to keep this woman forever. Like my first therapist that I had, I couldn't connect with her. Like I was having this conversation with her, and and obviously every therapist has their own like style of how they go about therapy. Like she was kind of, the way that she went about therapy just didn't work for me. I didn't want no one to look at me with puppy eyes. I didn't want anybody to each their own, you know? Switching out therapists and finding someone who's right for you is gonna, and like even sometimes having like a certain gender might help you be more comfortable, like, and that's okay too.
All right, so overall, I think we came to the conclusion that taking time out of your day and seeking out for help is part of your self-care and something that could really help you out. But something I wanted to ask you, ladies, what are some tips and resources that you guys implement to your daily routines, or something that other people can incorporate into their routines?
I feel like a thing that I like that we highlighted a lot is that like there's no such thing of having a self-care. Self-care doesn't necessarily have to be something that everybody does. Self-care can be anything that you find on your own, as mentioned. Like something that I didn't realize that I was doing self-care is like painting my nails, taking the time to like paint my nails. Another thing is just watching Netflix. That, as weird as it sounds for me, that's very therapeutic. It just helps me like ground myself.
I think also like self-care, I know as Angie like has told me before, it could simply be like doing nothing, you know, and being okay with that. Just, you know, I think that's, doing nothing is, you know, relaxing on its own. It's, you know, you do kind of focus on your breathing, but you're not really aware of that. So like simply doing nothing, it's like, I don't know, you're just allowing yourself to be.
Another one for me that might sound really weird, I just thought about it, is just eating food or eating in general. It might sound weird, but I feel like for me is like when I'm gonna eat something, nothing else matters. It's just me and the flavor of the food and just me indulging in how it tastes. But it's not like you're snacking. It's kind of more like you're sitting down in a meal and you're ready to just indulge in that. And like that couple minutes, nothing else matters because you're just focusing on the flavors that you're taking in. As weird as that sounds.
It's not weird at all. It's called a ratatouille moment. I think what's worked best for me is being true to myself, and what I feel and what I want to do and how I want to do it really helps me clarify my day and my mindset. And For me, having those times, as Brittney says, sometimes you just want to do nothing. Sometimes you just want to like be in a bathtub, whatever, and like having that time to do that. But also for me, I cannot do nothing for a while. And for me, I need to be doing something. And I've learned that since I'm okay with since I'm okay with losing, because, you know, every day you go through a battle, right? And before, I used to be okay with losing and being like, all right, well, whatever, it was a shitty day. All right, I'm going to keep going with the shitty day, like shitty attitude. But now that I'm more truthful to myself, now I'm like, nope, I'm going to win this battle. And now in the morning, like, for an example, I've set a routine where I have time for physical, mental, and emotional time. And I know that may seem a lot, but it doesn't seem so big once you do it. Like, for me, when I think in the morning is, I'm going to win this physical battle. I'm going to win this meditation battle. I'm going to win this whatever it is. And having that winner mindset for me has really helped me move on and progress in my life the way I want to and become better in all aspects of my life, because I do advocate to, like, for myself, I do advocate for that self-care and self-love, but I also want to continue grinding and not, like, just focus on my now, since I'm more of, like, I really want to accomplish many things in my life. And I think for me, having that winner mindset and having faith and patience with myself has really helped me, like, structure my time and what I do. Also, if you're, like, in a funk, and you need inspiration, I think that writing down what people or what things or what books or anything that ignites that inspiration for you. So it can be just watching a video of someone being successful, watching a video with motivational speeches. That really helps me get out of the funk and really helps me get in the right mindset that I want to be in, and getting that go-getter mindset. And also, this is a really important tip that I will give is because you can actually rewire your subconscious mind by they have these YouTube videos online where it's just mantras of positive thinking, and I always do it in the morning and at nighttime. So you are supposed to do it when you're like about to go to sleep, you know, that little time that you have where drowsiness. You're supposed to play it when you're in that drowsy state, because right there your conscious mind is sleeping kind of, and your subconscious is still there. So if you have those videos playing in the morning and the nighttime, right when you wake up, right when you go to sleep, it will significantly like impact your mind. And once you get to those days or those times where you feel like shit, your subconscious mind will click and it'll like push you into doing like, nope, you're the shit, what the fuck. And I really advocate to actually look those up and do this type of technique, because it has really, really helped me in my mindset and having like that strong minded will power.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad that you brought that up, because affirmations have been a big help for me, especially recently. Like, I have the mantras, the affirmation videos on YouTube. You can look up, sometimes there's like an hour long. You can set timers on your phone. On Spotify, I listen to like healing frequencies, and that helps me a lot before I go to bed and when I wake up. Especially in the morning when I'm doing my bed, healing frequencies really help ground me and really center me and just helps me stay in the moment. I have a little pack of affirmation cards that I pull in the morning as a way for me to just little reminders every day, and that helps me a lot. So I definitely agree with the videos and just like positive affirmations and mantras for sure.
That's so crazy because for me, I didn't think about this until y'all started talking about YouTube videos. I like to watch people do stuff, so I'll look up like morning routines, or like if I can't get out of bed, I look up a productive day in my life, or like a morning routine, and I like that because I don't. Me too. I see it more as like a. Just like I'm just watching somebody do their thing, and I'm like, oh shit, like let me get up and do my own thing, you know? Yeah. And it's not more of like it kind of breaks that like the glass of like you can be inspired from other people, you know, and like you use them as an inspiration to get your day started and kind of get out of the funk.
I was actually going to say that even though I implement things in my daily routine differently every day, just because I don't like to be the same every day. I like to be consistent, but not with the exact same stuff every day, because I get bored very easily. So something I love to watch on YouTube is cleaning videos and organizing, and that's the reason why I rearranged my room so many times. I rearrange my room, I think, once a month at least, or sometimes even more. just because I'm just like, oh my god, like, no, like, I don't like this here. Or I organize my room, or organize my closet.
For me, like, I think a lot of my self-care, like, I don't even know why I didn't even bring this up in the beginning, but I love to do yoga. It did start off because, like, well, I had, like, this hip and knee pain, so that's where it all started. But I also came across videos of, like, you know, morning affirmations, or just the person I follow, she would post, like, after a yoga session, it's like a 5-minute meditation, you know, and it was just positive affirmations, and that's where it all began. Like, I was like, okay, like, you know, yoga really helps, you know, your body relax. Of course, there are some that, you know, you get a little workout in, but doing that 5-minute meditation after, I don't know, I felt like it was like healing my body.
I remember one time I went on a morning hike and I was listening to the morning affirmations, and it was like I was having a really shitty night the day before, and I felt like a crazy person. I remember just going up the mountain with my earphones and just chanting these like so loud, because I probably looked super crazy, but no one was around me, and I just remember wanting the fucking mountains in the world to hear.
It's like something so small, but it like literally can affect you so much.
Because you're in your head all day, and once you say it out loud, you're like, oh shit.
All right, so I think this is perfect timing to go into our Discover Her segment. What are some biggest takeaways, or what was important to you from this episode that y'all want to share?
You know, a takeaway for me, I would say, you know, from our talk is that we're not alone. You know, many of us experience anxiety, stress, or depression. So I think an important thing for us to do is, you know, vocalize how we're feeling. You know, open up to those around you, because, you know, you might know what you're going through, but they don't. And I think, you know, allowing other people to know how you're feeling, or, you know, you might be lost, you might not know that you're experiencing these things. You know, there's somebody out there who could really understand you.
I think it's important for people to know that they are not alone. A lot of people are going through the same thing they're going through. And I think being open-minded is something that could maybe help somebody else, and maybe get through something together, and maybe they could like implement things into routine that might help them, or it could be like life-changing moments, you know?
I think what I learned from today's episode is the importance of self-care. It's so important, not only for you, but for your physical, mental health. And I think everyone should kind of be mindful of their own self-care routine and understand how they ground themselves. And you're not alone, and everybody deals with some sort of anxiety, some sort of stress, some sort of depression. So look out for resources, and exactly what Fatih said, vocalize them if you're comfortable.
I think what I've learned is that you can really gain so much on YouTube if you really know the keywords and what you want, and that comes with being true to yourself. You can look up other therapists, although it's not as personal as having your own. Just having other people explain what you can explain, or other testimonies on YouTube, because there's millions and millions of people that go through this, and they also use their platform to spread awareness. And I think listening to other people's stories can maybe bring you some type of comfortness or some type of clarity. And also how we were explaining the different sounds on YouTube, the mantras, and energy levels as well. If you listen to the Tibetan bowls, the sound bowls, that will really enhance your energy, and just really diving into what resource YouTube especially has in all aspects, and to use that and to your better use. Because I know that social media, especially Instagram, they have been more vocal about self-love and self-care throughout this year, but maybe reading it isn't enough for you, and maybe you need to hear it from someone else. Maybe you need to hear other resources. And I think understanding that you have this tool right in front of you, understanding that you are not alone, and understanding that there is a way out, and this is only temporary. And if you make the decision to go right field instead of left, and, you know, coming over that obstacle will really help you.
One of my biggest takeaways from this conversation is I think the importance of checking in with yourself and not letting the stigma behind mental health deteriorate you away from the path of healing. Do what makes you happy and what works for you, and don't let other things influence that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that...
I like that you pointed that out. Everybody's on their own healing process, their own healing journey, their own techniques. Everybody is unique in that way.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not black and white. It's complex, just as how beautifully complex you are, you know?
And just know that you are loved and not alone. And I also want to thank Brittney for joining us today. We loved your presence and your tips and tricks for self-care and self-love.
Thank you all. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to jump in on this topic that is so important to all of us.
Alrighty, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And for more content, head over to our Instagram and YouTube at Grow As We Go Podcast. We hope y'all enjoyed our dose of growth for today. And remember to always strive for growth.
Bye, everyone.
I found a dream.